Hey, Jackie. How was the feta cheese incident?
Well,
The alleged.
I'm staring at some on the floor still right now. Like it got
Maybe-
everywhere. And he did like a shitty cleanup job, I think, yesterday. Because I came into the kitchen today and was like, oh my God, there's all these little flecks of it everywhere. And then, sorry, I have to. He left just like a pile of it in the fridge. Like not in the case. Like just a clump of it in the fridge. So, okay.
Okay. Well, anyway, I personally am glad you're bringing this energy to the Goodfellas panel. So welcome, Daryl. We'll see if anyone else comes in and anyone else watching the replay. Just know that there was a feta cheese incident before this started. That we're working through together as a group, but we're pulling it off. Anyway, so today we are here talking about Goodfellas, a 1990 movie directed by Martin Scorsese. We'll start as we usually do, introducing yourself, kind of going around and telling us what is your relationship with the movie Goodfellas historically. Well, maybe we start with Sarah.
I don't think I've ever seen this, but it feels like something that you would have made me watch. Like something that you liked and we would have maybe watched when we were younger, but I don't have any memory of
No, I don't think you did.
watching
Yeah.
it. So I guess we didn't. My only experience with this before was like the memes of Ray Liotta like laughing. Because I feel like people always use that laugh meme. And I was like, oh, this is what that's from. I felt very Gen Z that I had seen the meme first.
Before, yeah.
I was like, young people must experience this all the time.
Cool. How about Jeremy?
Thanks for having us, Kyle. This is a movie that I had always heard about. I'd always heard it was very good. People get offended if you tell them you haven't seen Goodfellas. And so when Jackie and I were engaged and moved in together, I was so excited to see it in her DVD collection. And I was like, oh, now I own Goodfellas. And I've been like pestering her for years to watch it with me. And this was finally the excuse to do so. So that's my experience, is just kind of staring at it with like big puppy dog eyes, wondering what it could be like. And
you didn't watch it before now?
No, first time.
It's amazing.
Oh,
No.
cool.
How
And I have
about? Yeah. Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Complicated feelings. That's what I was gonna say.
Okay. How about cool girl Jackie, who had the Goodfellas DVD? What's your experience?
I don't feel as like proud to own that now. Yeah, so my dad loved this movie and I watched it as a kid. Like whenever it was on TV, he would just watch it, and I was really like, I watched like the TV version as a kid. And then I think like I got into it during like, you know, when you get into all the directors, like in my like college, like early 20s. And I think like I hadn't watched it since my early 20s. So now at 35, I just have a totally different perspective of it.
Interesting. Nice. Well, I can't wait to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, my experience. I think I came to it like in college. I don't remember watching it much as a high schooler, like super young, but like definitely was in when people were ever like annoyingly into The Godfather and Godfather 2 and Goodfellas and all that stuff. But it had been a while since I watched it, probably 15 years at least. So yeah. Anyway, let's jump into some facts before we start talking about the movie. So just some fun facts kind of set the tone. Goodfellas came out in 1990. It's a biographical gangster film directed by Scorsese, written by Nicholas Pileggi and Scorsese together, and produced by Irwin Winkler. It's a film adaptation of Pileggi's 1985 nonfiction book called Wise Guy. It stars Robert De Niro, Ray Liotta, Joe Pesci, Lorraine Bracco, and Paul Sorvino, and it narrates the rise and fall of mafia associate Henry Hill and his friends from 1955 to 1980. Scorsese based it on Nicholas Pileggi's book, Wise Guy. Like we said, he didn't intend to make another mafia film, but he saw the book and which he was reading while he was working on The Color of Money, and was fascinated by the mob lifestyle and thought it was the most honest portrayal of gangsters he'd ever read. After reading the book, he knew he wanted to have it start like a gunshot and get faster from there, almost like a 2.5-hour trailer. He said it's the only way you can really sense the exhilaration of their lifestyle and get a sense of why people get attracted to it. According to Pileggi, Scorsese cold called him and said, "I've been waiting for this book my entire life." And Pileggi responded, "I've been waiting for this phone call my entire life." He initially called the film Wise Guy before landing on Goodfellas. It says to prepare for their role, De Niro, Pesci, and Liotta often spoke with Pileggi, who shared his resource material for writing the book. According to Pesci, improvisation and ad-libbing came from rehearsals, and Scorsese gave the actors freedom to do whatever they wanted. He then made transcripts of those sessions, took the lines he liked the most, and put them into a revised script from which the cast worked. So a pretty interesting way to write dialogue. Also interesting, Madonna was considered for the role of Karen Hill before it went to Lorraine Bracco, which honestly would have been kind of interesting. And former prosecutor Edward A. McDonald appeared in the film as himself. So when the guy's telling Henry Hill about the witness protection program, that's the actual prosecutor from real life, which is interesting. And then a couple more things. Scorsese adopted this frenetic style to overwhelm the audience with images and information. He put so much detail in every frame because he believed the gangster life is so rich. Freeze frames were also used for certain scenes because he wanted to highlight a point was being reached in Henry's life. The scene in which Tommy tells the story and Henry responding to him, causing him to say, "Funny how, do I amuse you?" is based on an actual incident that Pesci experienced. He was working as a waiter and thought he was making a compliment to a mobster. However, the comment was not taken well, which is pretty funny. And then the dinner scene with Tommy's mother, the dinner scene with Tommy's mother, where they went back to her house and showed him her painting. That's actually Scorsese's real life mom. It was also improvised. And the only scripted line was, "Did Tommy tell you about my painting?" Everything else she just went down as an Italian mother.
That scene.
Yeah. And then the cast did not meet Henry Hill until a few weeks before the film's premiere. He was alive at the time, obviously. Liotta met him in an undisclosed city, and Hill said he'd seen the film and told the actor he loved it. And interestingly, too, we'll probably mention this, there is no incidental score in the film. There is no musical score, only needle drops, which is interesting. So only from specific scenes. He chose the scenes from the soundtrack that he felt obliquely commented on the scene or the characters. In any given scene, he only used music contemporary to or older to that scene setting. So pretty interesting to set up. So let's start talking about the plot summary. We'll kind of go around. We start the film in 1955 with teenage Henry Hill becoming enamored by the criminal life and mafia presence in East New York, a working-class Italian-American neighborhood in Brooklyn. He begins working for the local boss, Paulie Cicero, and his associates, Jimmy Conway, an Irish-American truck hijacker and gangster, and Tommy DeVito, a fellow juvenile delinquent prone to violence. Henry begins as a fence for Jimmy, selling the stolen goods, gradually working his way up to more serious crimes. So maybe we start with Jeremy. What was your kind of take on this opening segment?
Well, so you skipped the part that it is a cold open of
That's
them
right. Yep.
driving
With the trunk.
and it's actually kind of a haunting intro because the names are appearing as you're hearing cars go by, and then you're hearing like the thump of like what's a body in the trunk, and you know it. But I mean, I guess they knew because they knew it was in the trunk. But you know, this is literally the first scene, so you're like, I feel like there's a body back there, and then just how bloody it is and his whole response to it is really jarring, especially for like your first scene. Is Joe Pesci diving a steak knife into a guy's rib cage. It's like, holy shit. Yeah. And then, you know, the actor who played Ray Liotta as a kid, I feel like looked a lot like Ray Liotta. Like I felt like it was a good, a good facsimile of a younger him. And so, you know, at this point in the movie, I'm like really excited to see like the themes that I think it's going to build up. But I don't know. Anyway, we'll get to that for the next part. But the movie has my attention very well right now.
How about Jackie? What was your take on the opener?
The opener is just like very iconic in my mind. Like, it's what stands out to me is him as a kid. And I think like it captures so well how like at that age, like searching for belonging and like finding it in this like, and that like, you know, thrill for danger and stuff, but just like captures that so well. And like watching it as an adult though, I was like, oh, this is like grooming and it's really disturbing. But I was like, and as an adult, like when I watched it in my early 20s, I feel like or like even, I don't know, when I watched it as a kid, I was so young enough to have that like adolescent frame of mind of like still living kind of recklessly and wanting that sense of belonging. But now that I watched it again, I was like, this is like grooming and it's really sad. And it's sad to see how like they do it in these steps where like the kid, it was only like 13.
Yeah.
Anyway. And like, I also just like immediately when I think it's very interesting that this type of criminal behavior is so immediately stylized as like cool, whereas other criminal behaviors are not. And why like someone like my dad can like glorify this sort of like lifestyle, but then talk about like thugs on the street.
Right. What's the
And
difference?
like,
Yeah, totally.
well, we know what the difference is.
Right. Yeah.
And that was like immediately when I started watching it now, I was like, oh, like this is a little weird. Like I think it's kind of in the group of like Taxi Driver, American Psycho, Fight Club, where we all at the time I think liked these for the wrong reasons. And that's, I don't know if that's on the fault of the viewer or how much it is on how stylized it was that Scorsese made it. It just, I was thinking a lot about that this time around watching it.
Nice.
Yeah. What you said about like it being like grooming behavior, and like, you know, I have taught students who are like being recruited into gangs, and I've always talked to Jackie about how like it's weird that we don't call that perverse, right? This idea of like taking this child and inserting them into a life of violence and crime is so deeply fucked up. And then like the scene that really stuck out to me, I think you're going to get to in a second, but when young Henry gets caught and, you know, the mob all shows up for him when he's leaving the courthouse, and he goes, you got your cherry popped. And it's this sexual thing, you know, a sexual metaphor they're making. But like, it's really sad that there's like 14 adults all excitedly christening this child into a life that like the movie will make very clear is super shitty and super violent, and there's no such thing as loyalty or glamour or, you know, anything that's worth idolizing. They just haven't shown it in the movie yet because Henry doesn't know that yet.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about Sarah?
Well, yeah, I agree. I feel like it did a really good job of showing like what's attractive about being in a gang. Like there were a couple lines about like, now you're somebody in a neighborhood full of nobodies, and you know, the mob offers protection for people who can't go to the cops, right? There's all these like ideas of like belonging. And yeah, that scene stuck out to me too, Jeremy, of them celebrating his like his first pinch.
Right.
For that same reason, I was like, wow, this is like messed up. But then I like felt really bad for his parents because like at first they're just happy he has a job, right? They're like, oh, he's like this kid who has a job, you know, it's like good for him, he's a go-getter. But then they slowly start to realize like, oh no. And like it just, again, it reminded me of how like things haven't changed that much. Like that still happens. It just happens more like online now. And like I was even thinking about how like the line about everyone has to take a beating sometimes. I was thinking like that was when his dad beat him up, and there was like everybody has to take a beating sometimes. I was like, wow, that's still true, but it's like it's a different kind of beating. Now it's like more like you have to take your beating in the press or like online, or like, do you know what I mean? Like it feels like a lot of these themes are still just really true, but I think like kids are getting recruited into like all these radical ideas and stuff like online, not so much like on the street corner, which is interesting because it's not anymore about like what neighborhood you live in or what race you are, which is kind of like old America. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it kind of made me wonder, like, is the nostalgia for this form of violence, kind of like you were saying, Jackie, like with your dad and everything, is that just more like, let's make America great again? right? Like this nostalgia for this different time. It's like, oh, the crime was different back then. And it was somehow like more like cool.
Like
You know what I
wholesome
mean?
crime.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
you're not even making that metaphor though. Like that side of the political belief makes that metaphor and say things like, "Oh, we used to rough them up, and we used to deal with the unions," and they say that genuinely nostalgically.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that
It's
is
just
true.
it's
Or
so
even
it's
like when kids act up nowadays and people are like, they need to be beat. Like somebody's gonna beat that kid up for being a snot nosed little punk. That's what they need, you know, blah 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 blah. These parents spare the rod. As if like child abuse is such like a great part of our past that somehow solved all our problems. It's like, no,
But
it's
I think one
more.
of the things that this movie does the best is all the times when it inserts his very young daughters who are just
Yes.
looking at the most fucked up shit, and they're
Mhm.
like in a waiting room at a prison, and there's like a blowbee happening right over there, and it's like this kid is just there, and so it's like I think they make it
I
really
had a note about
clear.
that too, that the daughters especially like Scorsese just like focuses on their faces sometimes, and it's
Yeah,
really kind
it's
of
heart
beautiful
wrenching.
that he does that, and it kind of punctures your sense that you're on this fun ride with these cool guys and their
Right.
guns, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I just noted too, similar to Jeremy with the openings. I mean, there's the as long as from when I first started growing up, whatever the line is, I always wanted to be a gangster. Great opener, but also just like before that, even the thumping of like the cars moving, I'm hearing the body, but it's like it to me set the tone. Like this entire thing, reading that thing earlier about it, this feels like a super kinetic movie to me, to use that word. Like it's always in motion in every way, sometimes even more so than others. But even from that, it's like we're moving along. There's things craziness is happening, like the thump. You're gonna have some bumps in the road, but it is not stopping this entire thing until the end, which we'll talk about. But and then also I think the freeze frames work well for that too, with a lot of freeze frames in the opening too, which is like focus on this, focus on this. That's a moment in time. We're going to continue moving, but it just calls us out as a viewer. Like, here's what you want to focus on. But I just found this to be like, not necessarily a music video, but like I rarely see things always so in motion like this. I never felt like it let up. So anyway, next part. So throughout the 1960s, the three men excel at carjacking, stealing cargo trucks from JFK Airport, and eventually committing the Air France robbery. They spent most of their nights at the Copacabana nightclub, carousing with women. Henry starts dating Karen Friedman, a Jewish woman who's initially confused by Henry's criminal activities. She's soon seduced by Henry's glamorous lifestyle and marries him despite her parents' disapproval. So maybe we'll start with Sarah on this one. What was your take on kind of their rise to power and the intro of Karen?
Well, there was a great line about if you want something, you take it, which I liked. I thought that was very like American. And I really liked how how they described it like a cult. Like I thought about all the cult documentaries we were watching, but like how it says like it seems normal because you're surrounded by it. And I was just thinking about like that's true for all those cults too. Like when it was when Karen was talking about how we only saw people from like the mob, basically.
Mhm.
Like that's who
Mm-hmm.
we hung out with. So it's like everything had this patina. Is that how you say that word, or is it patina?
Patina, I think. Yeah.
I always say patina, but then I hear people say
It's
it.
with
Anyway.
Tina.
Yeah.
So I was right.
Yeah.
I assumed I was wrong. I always hear people say patina, but this patina of like normalcy over everything because everybody around you kind of shares that. So I really liked that. And then I don't know if this includes that first unhinged interaction with Joe Pesci. The
I can't even tell which unhinged
Yeah.
show best interaction you're
That,
talking
that,
about.
that would be happening in this point because Henry's still young.
the first one where he was like, "Well, I'm funny" or whatever. Like, you
Oh,
think
yeah.
I'm funny? Funny how? That was such a great scene. I thought it was like so tense. He was so scary. And then there was that. Again, I don't know if how far we're going.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
I was going on to the killing of the made man whose name I didn't remember.
Oh yeah, Billy Bats. That's the next part.
In this part? Oh, that's the next part. Okay, so I won't say anything about that. But yeah, so that's I guess all the notes that I had for this part then.
How about Jackie? How was your intro to Karen type of thing?
Yeah, like, I mean, again, I just keep feeling this contrast of how I feel about it now versus when I first saw it. I feel like when I first saw it, when Karen was on the sidewalk, like yelling at him, I thought it was cool. Like I like romanticize their romance. Now I think like it's interesting how her character, like he liked her for her sort of like strength and will, but that was like slowly like disintegrated throughout their marriage. It was so tragic to watch. Like, but then like with what Sarah was saying, like that kind of reminds me of like the grooming of like how things just become normal, but then it's like it's what are you willing to normalize in order to get like wealth? And I think most people would like kind of let things slide, especially if you're a woman who doesn't have the agency to do it on her own. But yeah, and also I just think I have like men in my life where their presence just makes people nervous and scared.
Like
And
Jeremy?
the way that no, he's like my Winnie the Pooh.
Can I talk since I'm being slandered?
No, but I have one last thing. Sure. I just think Scorsese captures that man so well. Like I had the same feeling when there's a real man I'm scared of, just their presence. Like I have the same feeling watching them on the screen.
Yeah.
Jeremy, rebuttal.
Joe Pesci's character in this movie is really important to me, because it is so terrifying, so expertly acted, and it's really like every actor around him is really the good actor because they look so genuinely uncomfortable, genuinely tense. And then like their throats tighten up and their eyes are getting a little bigger, and you're just like, oh my god, who is this? It's like there's a shark just sitting at the dinner table. Yeah, and you're just like, he's gonna bite somebody. Like, why do we bring the shark around? This is so tense. But he's this little guy, and little guys are not the villain and the shark in a scene. They're the comic relief, right? And so like as a little guy myself who can sometimes get too intense, I'm like that feels very real. And like obviously, like we all know he's overcompensating. Yeah. Like he's the little dog that has to bite everyone because he's afraid he's gonna get bit. Yeah. I don't know if that was a lame metaphor, but it's just so that was the one scene I had seen from this movie because I watched it on YouTube, you know, the my funny scene. But then I was not aware that scene would keep happening over and over and over. And the motif of this movie is that there is a tense situation and both grown men have to get the last word.
Right. Yeah.
And they're always about to walk away, and then someone has to die because their pride is just too much.
Yeah.
And you know, and we'll get to that towards the end of the movie. But like,
I actually wrote like Tommy's pride is like almost the antagonist of the entire movie.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. I we'll come back to it later because it's famous, but I can't. They call it the Copa shot. One of the most famous scenes in film, the whole one shot going into the Copacabana as he's introducing Karen to his world, while also the real question is who did it better, the opening to Adventures in Babysitting or the scene, which used the same song, both of which are amazing. But yeah, this whole scene of like coming in through the back entrance, working through it, showing how he knows everyone, he's tipping everyone, just like it's like a intoxicating like entry to his world for him. Like that scene is magic to me. Also, I was telling Sarah, like once she starts talking as the narrator, how often do you see films just switch narrators or go back and forth? It's kind of interesting to me, which is cool to see. Like, oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I liked that. I thought that was one of the moments where I was like, okay, this movie actually has some ideas because like we are hearing the woman's thoughts, and she's a complex character, and she's like, yeah, he's an asshole, but look how hot he is. Like, come on, like I'm a young woman, I'm attracted to it, and like she knows it's not a good choice,
right?
So it's not like she's not dumb, she's kind of reckless. in
right.
what she does with her love.
Yeah, she's like eyes
Um,
wide open as to what she is going
Yeah,
into.
no one's fooling her.
Can I bring up something just that I liked? I loved the little detail of when they go to her rich club, because I get the sense she comes from money, right? She was supposed to be
I think
fairly
so, I don't know.
wealthy.
Yeah.
And they go to her fancy club, the country club or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, you don't tip here. You
Oh,
sign."
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought that was a nice little like. I was like, "Oh, that told me everything about her." And then the boy across the street who was like, just
Oh,
looked
right.
very like wealthy, and yeah, I was like, "Oh, that was a really interesting." I just felt like that told me so much about their upbringing. And I thought it was just kind of genius screenwriting, right? Like we didn't need any exposition to like remind us, oh, he's like from this working class neighborhood and she's actually like kind of wealthy. So I
Yeah.
really liked
That's a good. I
I
almost forgot. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say I really like the scene when they're married and they're dancing and she's like, "Oh, the money, the bag full of
Yeah.
money." Like,
Right.
and he's like,
don't worry about it.
but that was such a real moment. Like, I feel
Mhm.
like I would think about that. Like, oh, we can't just leave it sitting there. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Sorry, Kyle, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say, Sarah reminded me. I'd forgotten about the whole crossing the street to handle the guy that assaulted her,
Yeah.
and like and seeing the gun and expecting him to always going to shoot the guy, and just watching him beat him almost to death with the gun barrel. Like that was insane. So yeah, what an intense scene. All right, cool. Moving on. So this is jumping ahead, which Sarah was just alluding to. In 1970, Billy Batts, a made man in the Gambino crime family, who was recently released from prison, insults Tommy at a nightclub that was owned by Henry. In response, Tommy and Jimmy beat, stab, and fatally shoot Billy. Realizing that the unsanctioned murder of a made man will invite retribution, Jimmy, Henry, and Tommy bury the body in upstate New York. 6 months later, Jimmy learns the burial site is slated for development, prompting them to exhume and relocate the decaying corpse. Jeremy, I'll start with you. What was your take on that scene?
So it's once again another like Joe Pesci just drop it scene. But I love how the moment that the violence is over, like it's no longer cool and it's really gross and he's got his blood all over him and it's not glamorous and it's very like meaty and unsexy. And the flash forward when they need to dig it up and the fact that Henry is gagging from the smell of rotten Billy, but Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro are unfazed by the smell. And I was like, what good, simple storytelling. It's a very show don't tell thing of like they've been in this life for so long that they're doesn't even affect them. But Henry is still kind of fucked up by all this. And yeah, that was my thoughts.
Cool. I loved that shot of the red with the red. Kind of like they were in hell.
Yeah.
But then there were like seagulls in the background. I was like, there was something that scene like really stuck in my mind. It was so visceral and cool and scary, like really scary to me.
Yeah. How about Jackie?
I mean, this is when I really got into Tommy. Tommy's Joe Pesci, right?
Yeah.
Like his character and how like it plays with if he's actually kind of like sociopathic or like psychopathic, like, or if that's like, is that a requirement to like be in this world, or did he learn this, or was he born this way, or like where does it come from? And I thought that was really interesting because it's like, oh, and then you like blame him for being too like reckless, but then like that's also part of like the world that's encouraged. I just found that really interesting, like his character very interesting, and especially in contrast with like Jeremy was saying of like Henry's kind of more sensitive and still has that like in him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Joe Pesci, like you get the sense that everyone would be way happier if he wasn't at the party because they know he's going to ruin it every single time, but they keep him around because he's the only one batshit crazy enough to kill all the people that they need dead. So he does have this kind of power in this circle by being so completely insane. And that's why they keep him around, is that you never know who you're going to have to point him at next.
Did you think maybe though it was because he was because of his family connections, because that thing at the end about him being 100% Italian, so he had the eligibility to become a made man, whereas the other two couldn't aspire to that because they were Italian, or they were Irish or half Irish or something. I thought that was so interesting that it's like, oh, like it's just perpetuating the same, like the monarchy or something, like this weird, like genetic, like, oh, you have to be pure blooded. I was like, oh, like they try to act like they're this rough and tumble. Oh, we're just a family and we bind together to like protect people who can't go to the tops, right? And it's like we're like protecting these working class interests and working with the unions, and like they almost sell it as this Robin Hood story, and then at the end of the day, it's just another shitty monarchy.
Yeah,
you have to be Italian to get ahead. And I just thought that was interesting, and I wondered if that was why, maybe kind of too, that they kept him around. I thought it was so chilling too when he shoots. I don't know.
Oh yeah, Christopher from Sopranos.
Yeah. I can't think of his accent.
Yeah.
Then he's like, oh, he got shot. Whatever, he got shot. Like he doesn't even admit that he shoots him.
Yeah.
Like, oh, whatever, he got shot. I'm supposed to. What? We're supposed to stop playing cards or whatever. I'm like, got shot. I'm like, oh my gosh, it totally reminds me of some of my students. Like when she got mad. Like, oh no, because you did X, Y, Z. What do you mean she got mad? Why is the focus on me?
Yeah,
like,
I need to use that when I teach grammar. But
well, I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but I feel like there's a connection there of like one thing kind of leads to the other. Like if you're a child, if you're a boy and you're not held accountable for even like,
and you can't take responsibility for your actions, and you're whenever you do something wrong, it turns into a passive thing that happens to you and not a choice that you made.
You kind of can become a monster.
And I think we allow boys to get away with it all the time. Like
all the time.
Well, and a lot of times we don't want to argue with them because we're like, oh God, he'll just not stop arguing. Like, go talk to the principal, whatever. I'm not dealing with this. But it's like, should we go to the mat with every kid who, like, it's like the energy that would take.
But I think that ties into what you said, Sarah, about Joe Pesci's character being all hung up on like the racism or perceived racism, is that like, you know, he thinks there is a discrimination and his odds are stacked against him in life and people aren't acknowledging it, you know, and he uses that as justification for having to be so terrible. And I feel like people do that all the time. You know, it's like, well, everyone talks about this form of discrimination, but no one cares about how my group is suffering. And that's not fair because I work just as hard as anybody. So I'm going to do whatever I think I have to. So I hadn't really thought about that before, but that's a good point.
Yeah. I was just going to call out too. We talked about it earlier that it was Scorsese's real mom playing it, but the whole scene at the mom's house is great. It's also chilling because knowing what happens with that knife later, he's knifing the guy in the beginning, just knowing that was her like kitchen knife that he borrowed. But just how much they completely kept her in the dark, or tried to keep her in the dark of what was happening, just lying without any hesitation as to what they were doing, what their scheme was, which is kind of chilling. But also just the fact that they respected the Italian mother to sit down at her table, go through a full formal meal, was just interesting to me.
With the guy in the trunk, right? He was in the trunk the whole time.
Yep.
And we know he's alive.
Right.
Exactly. They don't know he's alive yet, but we, the audience, know he's alive.
Know.
This entire dinner. I'm just going to put this out there for the Ford home. That painting is on Etsy. And Jackie didn't want it. Jackie didn't want it for this home. And I don't want to give it to you because that's a lot of pressure. But
vlogs pointing two different ways.
Yeah, well, he's looking this way. He's looking this way.
So what? So what? So good. Yeah.
So funny.
Okay, cool. Next scene. As we're kind of rounding here towards the end here as we get here. In 1974, Karen harasses Henry's mistress, Janice, and threatens Henry at gunpoint. Henry moves in with Janice, but Polly insists he return to Karen after collecting a debt from a gambler in Tampa with Jimmy. Jimmy and Henry are arrested after being turned in by the gambler's sister, an FBI typist, and they receive 10-year prison sentences. To support his family on the outside, Henry has Karen smuggle in drugs from Pittsburgh, which he sells to fellow inmates. In 1978, he's paroled and expands his cocaine business with Jimmy and Tommy, against Polly's orders. Jimmy organizes a crew to raid the Lufthansa vault at JFK Airport, stealing $6 million in cash and jewelry. After some members purchase expensive items against Jimmy's orders and the getaway truck is found by the police, he has most of the crew killed. Only Henry and Tommy are spared, as Henry is making money through his Pittsburgh connection, and Tommy is about to become a made man. However, Tommy is killed when he arrives at the bogus initiation ceremony in retribution for murdering bats, much to Jimmy's dismay. So a lot there, big chunk of time. Maybe start with Sarah. What was your take on this whole prison scene and then coming out with their big airport heist?
Well, I did wonder, did Polly set them up in Florida? Just because it's
be
like
arrested,
obviously he knew about bats. So, and obviously he wanted Tommy dead. He must have wanted it for a while, right? So I wonder if he's like set them up. I didn't think about that before, but I did wonder about that. I sort of love the scene where Karen was screaming at the mistress on the street, even though it was like, I feel like when I was younger, I thought those scenes were very cringy. I was always just like, why would you do that? I mean, first of all, get rid of that man. Who's going to fight for a man who doesn't want to be around you? Like, that was always but like, I don't know. Now that I'm older, I've kind of changed and been more like, oh, I kind of like how she just went and fought for her man, in this way. Like that, I don't know. I didn't used to think that was interesting, but I actually kind of liked it. She's just like, leave them alone. And just the fact that she called it out now, she should have obviously gone after her husband and not after like the other woman. But at the same time, it's like the other woman's complicit. She knows he's married. She's a grown up. She's just getting what she can out of it. And like, I don't think it's necessarily wrong to call that out either, And I kind of like how she was even like with the super and was like, the woman who lives here is like an adulteress or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. Not that the guy would have done anything, but it was kind of like she was willing to do anything, right? Which I kind of liked. But of course, I felt just horrible for her. I love the scene where she points the gun in his face. I think that's later, but I liked that a lot. And let's see, what else did I write? Not much until they get out of prison. I didn't have much else on this scene. I did think it was kind of interesting that Polly didn't want to get into the drug scene. So that was kind of a real thing with the mob being.
Remember Godfather 1, he was
Godfather 2. Yeah.
Too,
so I thought that was just kind of interesting.
Yeah. Jackie, what was your take on this part? The prison and then the heist?
This is when my interest started to decline. Like I was like kind of bored. Like I don't think I get what they were trying to do of like making the pace of it faster and sort of make more chaotic, and we see everything, I don't know, like unravel. But for some reason my interest wasn't there anymore. But I do think it's so interesting, like we never really hear from Henry's point of view of why he cheats. It's just he does. Like I wanted to hear more. I guess it was just expected, like it was just a given.
That's kind of what I thought. I was like this because I thought the same thing. I was like, he obviously is still really attracted to and loves his wife. So it's weird.
Yeah.
It was
there was that line. There was that line too about like whenever one day is for the wives, the other day is for the mistresses. Like expected. Yeah.
I get it's like a given in that culture, but like in The Sopranos, they have their Gumars, but you hear like you get a sense from them why, and there's a bit more depth to it. Yeah.
How about Jeremy?
Don't you think Janice was like a knockoff version of his wife too? Like,
yeah, she was.
The wife is way here.
And then there's the third one later in the movie.
Why is he doing this? Like, I
know.
Like,
that's what I thought.
It almost just seemed like he was doing it to follow the norm of that culture. Like, I don't
It
know.
kind of reminded me of The Great Gatsby, just that scene with like Myrtle in her little
Yeah.
apartment with her, because didn't she have a dog too? And like it reminded me of
Mhm.
that too, in that Daisy is obviously like clearly way more attractive than Myrtle. But still, Tom has to go cheat with Myrtle and put her in an apartment and do like it almost felt like that, like this weird compulsive thing that
Totally.
didn't
Totally
make sense.
felt compulsive. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, this is also where I started to detach from the film's narrative, I guess. I don't really even know that this movie has a narrative. There's not really like a story arc. I mean, the way you're describing it right now, I think is actually more enjoyable than watching the film. Because I feel like between all of these events, there's a whole bunch of mumbling and quick talking and walking down hallways. And I'm like, wait, what? Who's been pinched? Who? What? I said, oh, screwdriver back of the head. Oh my gosh. Like this is, you never really have, it never really sits with the scene. With rare exception though, it's at this part where they are at the club and every single character, the mobsters, the wives, the wait staff, they're all just mesmerized by the person on stage. And it's this really interesting, like 45-second shot of just everyone of all walks of life appreciating a really good singer. And I really liked that moment. And I was like, okay, that's actually kind of thematically interesting. The prison thing made me really mad because, like Kyle or Sarah said, like none of this has changed at all. They're in jail, but they have a really nice apartment with a full kitchen, and they're, have the other table, and they have total privacy. And it's like, it's not a jail. It's just an apartment they can't leave.
Yeah.
And that's just freaking Ghislaine Maxwell
Yeah, I was
having
gonna say,
the VIP treatment, despite the monstrous things. This is also the point with "Give Me Shelter" by the Stones, which I'm wondering if Kyle and Sarah realize is also really neat.
That's also on Adventures
in Babysitting.
I think we know who ripped off who.
Yeah, it's just really weird that these two movies are very different, but they're also kind of like hard to enjoy because they haven't aged necessarily well. So yeah, that was my thought on that part.
Yeah, I was with you too. The jail cooking scene was infuriating, but also like I was kind of intrigued by his onion or his garlic cutting prowess.
Oh yeah, that liquefies. That looks good.
How did that hold up to Dracula? I mean,
No, I'm intrigued. Yeah, exactly. So, and then also I was going to call out. I forgot to call him out earlier, but this is where we find Frenchie, the mobster, dead in the garbage truck or whatever. Just not, if you didn't notice, Frenchie is also the guy that Harry and Lloyd poisoned in Dumb and Dumber or whatever. Do you remember?
Oh, that's funny.
Where they give him like the hot stuff that's too hot for his ulcer and he like passes out. Anyway, real deep cut. It's a little Dumb and Dumber cross for you.
what a career.
What a career, exactly. And then what was your take too on Jimmy's betrayal for his becoming a made man? Did you feel bad, or not Jimmy, Tommy? Did you feel bad for Tommy getting tricked into thinking he was big, or did he deserve it all along?
Here's what I liked about that scene is
Yeah.
that, like, there's this male fantasy, like, I'm gonna go out like John Wick and I'm gonna be like, and it's like, and you collapse in the rain and you're like, oh, Valhalla awaits, right? But he just walks into a dingy, shitty, he goes, oh god damn, and boom, and he's gone. There's no big fight scene, there's no glamour to it. I just, for some reason, I love the fact that his last thing this guy sees is like the coffee table with the crap on it.
Yeah.
And it's that's like the worst death I could possibly imagine is so dying unimpressively in a place of no consequence.
Yeah.
Like that, I think you need that character to have that death, because otherwise there is no messaging to this movie at all.
Yeah. Totally. All right. So last, sorry, you're gonna say something? Yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, it's like it always ends the same way. Like it's always all these like gangs and organized crime groups and even cults. It's like they're your brother or they're your sister until they aren't,
Yep.
and then they
So
aren't.
That's what there's a line about, like, this when I realized, like, your murders come to you with a smile. And it's like,
right.
This whole thing of like, oh, you don't snitch, but it's like there is no actual loyalty. Right?
Yeah,
They all
exactly.
eat each other alive. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, what is the honor in not snitching if you're just gonna get an ice pick to the back of the head? Like, that's somehow honorable or something. I don't know. It's just very.
I do
Yeah.
think that's kind of the gnarliest death, though, is the guy who gets the ice pick just shoved into the back of his skull. And
Yeah.
I was like, is it really that easy? Like, is there just an off button in the human body? That is terrifying.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not
Like, I
great.
could trip and that could happen accidentally. Like, no
Yeah,
way,
right.
no. Like,
Okay, final part here until we get to the end. 1980, Henry has become a nervous wreck due to heavy cocaine use. He sets up another drug deal with his Pittsburgh associates, but is arrested by narcotics agents and incarcerated. After bailing him out, Karen explains she flushed $60,000 worth of cocaine down the toilet to prevent FBI agents from finding it during their raid, leaving the Hills penniless. Feeling betrayed by Henry's drug dealing and realizing he's a liability, sorry, I'm reading the chat here. Feeling betrayed by Henry's drug dealing and realizing his liability, Polly gives him $3,200 and ends their association. Henry meets Jimmy at a diner and is asked to travel to a hit assignment, but the request makes him suspicious. Realizing that Jimmy plans to have him killed, Henry decides to finally become an informant and enroll his family in the witness protection program. Henry gives sufficient testimony and evidence in court to have Polly and Jimmy convicted and moves to a neighborhood in an undisclosed location in accordance with the witness protection program. Henry describes his unhappiness by leaving his exciting and turbulent gangster life, feeling condemned to live a boring, average life as a schnook. End of movie. Jeremy, what's your take on the ending? Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I think Sarah would appreciate that one of Henry's favorite things about this violent life of crime is that he never has to wait in lines anywhere. And now that he's just a schnook, he's like, I gotta wait for everything. He's like, his whole life is just waiting in line, and that's kind of the thing he misses the most about all that power. And I was like, so totally relatable. I love him being bought off for like $3,200, and it's like it's fucking nothing. It's not this. It's like, and it's like you can see he's so hurt because he's like, oh, that's what I'm worth to this guy
for a lifetime. He says something like, that's what I get for a lifetime. I mean,
lifetime.
Literally served that guy since he was 13 years old.
Yeah. And I kind of love Robert De Niro's character kind of getting the really dorky big bottle glasses because he's an old man now. And he's kind of not as Jimmy the Gent's not really scary anymore. He's kind of like looking through his glasses to like read the thing, and it's like, okay. This was also the part where Jack and I literally paused the movie because there was a big black box in the middle of the shot. Did you guys have that?
No.
They redacted the American Airlines logo.
Really?
In the laziest way possible. It's like a black bar that you'd put over boobies.
Yeah.
It's that just blocking the Jack and I were like, what the hell was that?
That's weird.
But it kind of serves the whole slapdash kind of darkly funny tone of this film. But Henry is a piece of crap, and it's just like I just don't find him redeemable at all. I don't feel like he learned anything, and I feel like his takeaway from escaping this life of crime is kind of boring. But that also made him feel like a very real person. That he's just so unlikable because the world is full of deeply unlikable people, and it's just weird because you don't normally get one as your protagonist.
Yeah. Jackie, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard movie to like watch because there's no like neat moral ending like to take away. There's no like, because like Jeremy said, Henry's the same. Like his ego, he didn't learn anything. He's just like, he still thinks he's deserves that. He still thinks he's this cool guy and like didn't learn anything. And I think like all of them like lived their lives as if they were like so loyal to each other, but then deep down they were all just like living for themselves. And it's like just like the jobs they said they didn't want to do, like you're so replaceable at any job you're at. And it's like it's exactly how you were treated. Like you killed Tommy, like you ratted out your people so you wouldn't get killed. Like it's just interesting.
And you think you're so much better that you didn't take a job working a 9 to 5, but like,
but like it's like so hypocritical. Like there's no meaning there. And like the final scene, I've just been thinking about a lot because I just am like, what am I supposed to feel? Like, how am I supposed to think about this? And it's like the Sid Vicious song is just so fucking cool that it's like, like, I don't know, like, it's this very cool, stylish ending, but then
Mhm.
Like, I don't know how much of like that compromises any sort of critique the movie has of like men like this.
Yeah, interesting.
So
Sarah,
it's just like, I don't know.
yeah. What was your take,
Yeah.
Sarah?
Well, first of all, can we talk about the ugliest home ever?
Oh yeah,
Oh
the
my
70s home. Yeah.
Oh my God, what was that hideous wall with like the bike reflectors in it? I was like, this is like literally the ugliest thing I've ever seen. And the place before was like, it was supposed to show they were living poor because he was in jail, but it was like, at least it was cute. Yes, all the beds were in one room, but it was like cute. It was neat. It was clean. Like, and they move into this horror show. But I did love Karen had a super cool leather skirt and jacket combo. She looked so good in that scene. I was like, I love that.
I thought
that
Cokehead Karen had like a glow up. I was like, okay, Karen.
really good. She looked really good in that leather outfit. He had a great leather coat too. There's some good leather in the back half of this movie. I wrote down laughter as such a motif in this movie, and I don't know what the laughter was at the end that I must have written, because this was somewhere near the end that I wrote. So there must have been another tense laughter scene where you don't know, like, is this actually funny? Are they actually laughing? Or, but I did think that was sort of a thread running through the movie. And I don't know, maybe that just goes along with like what you were saying, Jackie. It's like, we don't know how we're supposed to think about this. Like, to Henry, it was this fun, glamorized lifestyle. But to a lot of people, it's just horrible. It's this horror show, you know? So it's like, maybe sort of like that uncomfortable laughter where you don't really know, like, is it funny? Is it scary?
You can even see with
like maybe
Leota.
that's the whole movie. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's the whole point, is like, I don't know, like
Some of his laughter, like the meme style laughter, is like you can see in his eyes, like, I'm also really uncomfortable, but I'm laughing hard.
Yeah, and I'm laughing. But yeah, there's something else I wanted to say. I'll come back to it if I think of it.
Yeah. Okay, this is gonna blow. I don't know if you guys are familiar with My Blue Heaven at all. Sarah certainly is growing up. My Blue Heaven is a Steve Martin movie where he is a gangster in the witness protection program, but this is gonna blow your mind.
Oh, I remember what I was gonna say, but I'll let you explore our minds first.
Anyway, Nora Ephron, who famous for lots of rom-coms, etc., was married to Nicholas Pileggi at the time, was his wife. So she dove into his research, and My Blue Heaven is essentially a spiritual sequel based on Henry Hill, fictionalized. So that movie is like almost a comedy version of what takes place when Henry Hill is in witness protection. That's a goofy comedy about that, but that like blew my face off as someone who grew up with My Blue Heaven. So
okay,
it's a comedy sequel to Goodfellas. That's incredible.
Essentially, from a husband and wife team that had worked out. It's insane.
So what I was going to say is something one of you guys said, maybe that Jackie said, made me think of this, but like, I wonder, because Jackie was saying like, he doesn't change at all. He doesn't learn anything. Like, he still thinks he deserves to like do whatever he wants. And it made me think about Pulp Fiction and like, is Pulp Fiction partly a reaction to this idea? Like, because I feel like Pulp Fiction is kind of like, what if a gangster does change?
Right.
What if mid-hit a gangster has this realization and like realizes he's a terrible person? Like, what does that look like? And I don't know. I just thought it was kind of interesting because these movies are 8 years apart, 9 years apart.
Yeah, something like that.
And I just wonder if that's a question that was maybe like, I don't know.
Yeah, response. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump to, before we talk about some kind of final box office reviews, things like that. What were your best and worst parts of this movie? Maybe we can start with Jeremy.
Best part to me was this scene that I don't think people really talk about much, where Karen is thinking she's about to get whacked. And Robert De Niro's character is telling her to walk down the street. There's some designer coats. Right. And Robert De Niro's being real weird and like not walking with her. And she gets around this corner and you can kind of see down this narrow alley, there's just like men doing something, and they see her and start to move towards her, and she runs away. And it is viscerally terrifying. The way that it is shot, her reaction, how little we get to see, the fact that we still don't really know what was happening. Maybe there were coats, you know what I mean? That whole scene really made me super tense, both because I liked Karen a lot better than I liked Henry, and just it was really good filmmaking.
Yeah.
This movie, despite how much I didn't really like it, it is very well shot and acted, and the camera angles and the costumes and the lighting and everything is really good, except for I think the story. But it's not a story though; it's a series of events that really happened. So I think if you kind of like look at it through that lens, it might be a bit better. So that's my favorite scene. My least favorite scene is just any time that characters are fast talking and walking and the camera's going everywhere, and I literally don't know what they're talking about. And I get it. It's like, hey, bada bing, bada boom, oh, Jimmy the Lips, you're gonna have him whack, you know? And he's like, and Scorsese's like, that's what it was like in their world. I'm like, yeah, but that's not a good story for me sitting here in the theater. Like, that's exciting for you because you're in it and you're eating the gabagool. But like for us, we're just sitting there going, like, what the fuck are they talking about? So all of those scenes that were just trying to establish a sense of you don't know what's going to happen. I think this movie would have been better if it had been told like Pulp Fiction, or a series of individual stories from these characters' lives, and get rid of all the mumbling and the fast talking that makes me lose interest. So yeah, that's my best and worst.
Jackie, what's your best and worst?
It's weird to say this is my best, but just there are so many scenes where, like when Robert De Niro gets mad about the fur coat and the car when they spent that money.
Oh yeah.
Like where there's the tense argument happening where one person is really, really intense and then there's that silence and the apologies, like the way that he captured the way a man can be intimidating in that way and like just make an entire room uncomfortable. Like I've never seen done so well, and like make me feel authentically how I feel around men like that. Like I was like, oh wow. And I don't know, my least favorite part, I just feel like there was excessive like blowjobs.
Actually, I remember the one in the jail.
No,
there were three.
Like the sex was like very male centric, very like
yeah, of course,
very like, why is she giving him a rando kitchen blow bee because she got like money from him? Like that was just like, I don't know, I had weird feelings about it. The way it dealt with sex was just like I didn't
blow bee.
I don't know, like I didn't like it. Not that I'm not like prude, I just didn't like the portrayal.
Yeah,
it seemed pornographic in a way that the rest of the movie felt like it felt real, and this was like, oh, this is the male. Was Karen just really that riled up by being near the kitchen? It kept happening in the kitchen, right around breakfast.
Well,
like
he gave her money.
Okay.
It was after, like, oh, she's so turned on that she got a stack of money. I don't know. It was just, I think it lacked the
bitches love money. Am I right?
Yeah,
so
it's like be smarter. Like, be smarter.
I do remember when she goes, how much do you want? And she goes,
oh yeah, that's so funny.
I mean, I guess it's kind of interesting that the money that's like foreplay, you know. Yeah. But that could have been done different.
What was your best and worst, Sarah?
I thought there were a lot of, it's funny, mine's kind of the opposite of Jeremy's. I actually thought the crowd shots were really good. Like I didn't really necessarily notice the dialogue. It was just the feeling of them, the feeling of the other random blowbee. But that whole pan scene with all the people coming in to talk to their incarcerated loved ones was very intense and interesting, and I liked it. I thought it was really cool, and I just kept thinking I never want to be in that room ever.
You know what it was, Sarah?
Awful if that was the only way you could talk to your husband, you know?
That was the train station from Adventures in Babysitting.
Yeah.
That was that other character who was like trapped at the train station, the bus station or whatever, right?
Was trapped in the bus station.
That just jungle she's trapped in, and like that was totally the vibe.
Yeah, so I thought a lot of like there were just a lot of cool scenes like that. Um I actually think I think there definitely was a message of like crime doesn't pay or like I think there was a message there. I don't think Henry got it, but I think it was there because I noticed there was so much puncturing of the glamour of the lifestyle, like again with that scene where they're digging up the body or burying, like it kept moving from these like really iconically cool things to like a really horrible thing, like that crowd scene where they were incarcerated. I also think if they were trying to sort of glamorize crime, they would have showed the heist, right? But they only showed the aftermath of the heist when everyone's dying, and when everything goes wrong, or when he's mad about the fur coat and the pink Cadillac and stuff like that. Like, and we see the series of horrible deaths after. But they actually had a super successful heist, but we only see Henry in the shower, like reacting to it. So I think I liked that about it too. I liked those contrasts. I don't know that I really had a worst part. It was kind of horrible seeing the way he treated Karen. Like, I think some of those scenes were just hard to watch, like when he like grabbed her hair and stuff like that. But I thought they were well done. And they didn't feel to me exploitative in any way. Like, it felt genuinely scary, and like they were trying to make it scary. Like, I didn't feel like they were like glorifying it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think those scenes were hard for me to watch. I think the most boring sequence, I agree, was like the jail sequence. I felt like kind of slowed the movie down a little bit.
Yeah,
and maybe
Jackie
could have
said that
been
was like a
shortened.
lull. Yeah.
It really kind of was. It was like the cooking in jail, I felt like could have been shortened by a little bit.
Yeah. Like I said before, I think the Copa shot is still my favorite. Just how it makes me feel emotionally. I was like, man, it's like you really want to be that guy at the moment. And then it completely, by the end of the movie, you're like, wow, I really don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I had put down initially, like, I put not worse, like De Niro was great and his performance was great, but I feel like Jimmy's character, there was not much to him other than just being like, I'm a guy, I'm a little scary and give great performances, but like I didn't latch on to him. Like with Joe Pesci, I know exactly what he's like. He's absolutely insane. I don't know what to say. With Jimmy the Johnny, was kind of just there. But his performance was great for sure. And then at the end, it was just like sort of an abrupt ending, going to like the where are they now type things, which I almost wanted more of that. But it's also like his exciting life is over, therefore now it's boring. So maybe that's appropriate for me. Cool. So before we give our ratings, I'll read a few more kind of reviews and quotes from the period. When it was released, it grossed $47 million against a budget of $25 million and received widespread acclaim. It was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Director. Joe Pesci ended up winning for Best Supporting Actor, deservingly, I would say. When he accepted the award, it was one of the shortest Oscar acceptance speeches ever. 5 words. It's my privilege. Thank you. That was it, which is pretty great. It's widely regarded as one of the greatest films ever made, particularly in the gangster genre, and the critical consensus on Rotten Tomatoes calls it arguably the high point of Martin Scorsese's career. In his review for Time, Richard Corliss wrote, "It's Scorsese's triumph that Goodfellas offers the fastest, sharpest 2.5-hour ride in recent film history." In his review for the Chicago Sun-Times, Roger Ebert gave the film a full 4 stars and said, "No finer film has ever been made about organized crime, not even The Godfather," which is a powerful claim. In his review for the Chicago Tribune, Gene Siskel wrote, "All of the performances are first rate. Pesci stands out, though, with his seemingly unscripted manner. Goodfellas is easily one of the year's best films. Both of them named it the best film of 1990. Premiere listed Joe Pesci's Tommy DeVito as number 96 on the 100 greatest movie characters of all time, calling him perhaps the single most irredeemable character ever put on film. The film's 2.5-minute tracking shot through the Copacabana nightclub, colloquially called the Copa shot, is widely considered one of the greatest shots of all time and one of the few shots in the history of cinema readily identifiable by name. And then finally, Goodfellas inspired director David Chase to make the HBO TV series The Sopranos. He told Peter Bogdanovich, "Goodfellas is a very important movie to me, and Goodfellas really plowed that. I found the movie very funny and brutal. I felt it was real. And yet it was the first movie that Scorsese ever dealt with a mob crew, as opposed to, say, The Godfather, where there's something operatic about it, classical, with the clothing and the cars. I always think about Goodfellas when they go to their mother's house that night and they're eating. You know, when she brings out her painting, that stuff is great. I mean, The Sopranos learned a lot from that. And then finally, this is for mostly for Sarah, Liotta turned down a comic book bad guy to play Henry Hill. He was offered the spot in Tim Burton's Batman, playing D.A. Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face, but passed.
Oh, he
Oh,
would
He would have really elevated that.
He would have. Billy D. Williams still he nailed it, but yeah, like mixed results.
I don't like his Harvey Dent. I really don't.
No, it's not something to write home about for sure. Okay, so Jeremy, will you give us a preview of the Strauss scale as we give our ratings for this?
Born of the COVID pandemic, Strauss Family Zoom movie nights. If you don't regret watching it, it starts at a 5, and you follow your heart from there. I don't think I liked watching this movie. I am normally never a person to do this, but like I took out my phone a few times, and that's like a really bad sign. I just was not latching on to the characters. I did not. I had a horrible time trying to. I found this movie more confusing plot wise than Mario Galaxy. Like I was just like, because Mario Galaxy, I was like, okay, I get they're on the lava planet, so now I know that lava planet stuff's going to happen. I had no idea what anyone was ever talking about or what direction the story was heading. Like I said, it almost doesn't even feel like a story. So I was coming into the stream team pretty low. And I think I'm going to give it the rare double point bonus for the conversation.
Wow.
So I was at a 4. Now I think I'm actually at a 6. Yeah. So thank you for organizing this, Kyle, because you know, I thought this movie was kind of irredeemable like its characters, but I think maybe there is something there worth seeing maybe one time. I wouldn't ever want to watch this again, but
Wow.
I'm glad to have the opinion on it.
Nice. All right, Jackie.
I'm at like a 6 or 7.
6, 7. Nice.
I guess this movie didn't age well, not in the way of like, oh, now it's problematic or whatever. I just think like it's not as complex or nuanced as modern films are about similar material. So I'm just like, okay, like cool. Like I don't have the same reaction I did when I was younger, where I was just enamored by it. I just like, yeah, that's a cool shot. Like, and I think maybe like he was obviously the first to make these really cool shots, but now everyone does it because he inspired these people to do it. And like, maybe that's bad, but it's more like the ideas behind the movie I don't think were fully thought out to the point where it was like interesting to me. And The Sopranos, there's another layer. Like Tony Soprano's is in therapy. We see this like he's reconciling with it. Like there's more the backdrop of like 90s America, like dealing with like modern culture. Like there's something there that adds another layer and makes the critique more sophisticated, whereas this one I didn't feel that way. So that's why it's like a 6.5 or a 7.
Nice.
Yeah, 6.
How about Sarah? What's your take?
Yeah, I didn't think it was a better than The Godfather by any means. I thought that was a bit much. I kind of feel like it was like Godfather, the pop version. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I respect that. I think it did a different thing. I feel like, what's his name?
Don Corleone.
Brando.
Don Corleone. He just feels like he has the weight of the world on his shoulders. And Ray Liotta's sort of showing you the softer side of Sears. He's showing you the light, like the fun part of being a gangster, which I thought was doing a different thing. I gave it an 8. I thought it had a lot of really cool ideas. I don't think you get Pulp Fiction without this. I don't think you get The Sopranos without this. Well, you don't. I think a lot of the questions it asks are answered by like later films. Like, again, like what happens if a gangster does regret it? What happens if they need therapy because of all the violence they've seen? Like, but I feel like all those kind of came from this in a way. And I did think it was really well done. I don't always notice shots. You know what I mean? I'm not that
Mhm.
type of movie watcher. I'm usually more looking at characters and dialogue. So usually if I notice things, it's because they're distinctive or iconic. And I thought there were some shots that are really going to stick with me. Again, that shot where they're digging up the body and the red background, I just thought was like really, really cool. And yeah, so I think it definitely gets an 8. And I actually would watch it again. I don't know if I would watch it like every year or anything like that, but I'd watch it again.
Jeremy coming in hot with,
Yeah.
you think this is better than The Godfather?
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, I did not enjoy The Godfather. I did not even
Oh,
really
wow.
understand why that movie is talked about the way it is. So
Really?
maybe this just isn't my kind of. No, but I stood in the doorway while Jackie watched The Sopranos, and I really liked what I saw there. So I would think probably Sopranos, Goodfellas, Godfather bottom.
Well, it's a hot take.
Whoa.
I think I give this a 9.
Whoa.
I'm a big fan of this movie. I don't know that I'd give it a 10. Like, there are a couple things that would remove it from that. But yeah, between like just the craftsmanship of it, the general, all the acting, and honestly, like the soundtrack, like what a soundtrack when you think about it.
Yeah.
Like banger after banger, needle drops that really work well, I think. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this. I would watch it really anytime. But yeah, I don't know what would take it to me up to a 10, but yeah, it's close. It's very good.
What do you have in 40X?
Probably 40X obviously would be an 11.
Like
Well,
you feel Joe
maybe
Pesci stabbing you.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe
Like
more
stabbing.
unification. Like I feel like this film tried a lot of things, but like it was weird, like the switching of the narrators, right? And then that thing at the end where he just stands up in the courtroom, I thought that was very strange.
That was really weird. Yeah.
He looks at the camera. He looks directly at
Yeah,
you.
and then just starts talking to the camera. Like I was like, this was a really strange ending. Like I kind of like that he tried something. And again, I feel like it opened the way for like a lot of other films to try these things. But I don't. To me, that's what it would raise it for me. Is more like a unified vision instead of like I'm just gonna try like
Yeah.
all these things. You know what
He
I
did
mean?
that
Which
again with
I wasn't for trying, but
you remember Killers of the Flower Moon where he did that like radio play thing at the end? It's kind of similar to that too, where it's like breaking the format entirely, which is
yeah.
he seems to be attempting that.
There's some
Cool.
really tense scenes in that too. He must be just really good at building those tense.
Tension, yeah, for sure.
Yes, I was just thinking about some of the scenes in that between the husband and wife where you're just like
Mhm.
super
Yeah.
tense.
Well, thank you guys for talking about this. We are maybe the first time we fully know what our next one is going to be. We're going to be talking next month about Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. So I'm excited about that. Join us for that. But also until then, where can we find you? I know Sarah usually doesn't plug anything. Anything to plug this time?
Nothing to plug.
Nothing to plug. How about Jackie?
No, I'm good.
Man, all right, you guys gotta get something to plug. I'm telling you. Jeremy, I know what you're gonna plug. Yeah.
Well, I think Jackie and Sarah should have used their plugs for my plug. They want to plug the old switcheroo.com.
Switcheroo, the old switcheroo.
It's going to be a thing here. I might be snookering Jackie onto the show this season to talk about Mortal Kombat 2. So yeah, we play old video games. Kyle, Sarah, and Jackie have been on it, so come join us. And Kyle, thank you for hosting. This is always fun.
Yeah, of course. And I do a newsletter every Sunday, kylesjunkdrawer.com. Sign up for it if you'd like to see a bunch of random links and things every week. We will see you again next month. Thank you guys for talking, as usual. I'll talk to y'all later.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.